Hello, lighting people. I'm not a mergers and acquisitions expert, but I did watch an episode of Shark Tank last night. But if we truly want to immerse ourselves and understand what's happening in our lighting industry in the area of mergers and acquisitions, we should talk to people who know a lot about it and who are active in that space. So we're pleased today to be joined by Ted Konnerth, who in the 1990s was vice president of sales for Cooper Lighting, and then went on to start Egret Consulting, which became one of the largest recruitment firms in the lighting industry, and also had involvement in many M&A acquisitions over the years. Most recently, Ted has joined Merrimack Group, a lighting industry focused M&A firm, and we're pleased today to have Ted join us to discuss mergers and acquisitions. Ted, hello, and thank you for joining us today for 5 big questions.
Morning, Al. Always good to see you. And 5 big questions. I can handle that challenge. Thanks.
Awesome. Ted, in my past dealings with you over many years, you seem to always be connected with emerging technologies and companies in our space. What are you seeing evolve in the industry right now that's unique and has really captured your attention?
Well, from the technology side, I think I see a kind of a convergence in the IoT space, probably more accurately described as the IoT, the industrial IoT space. So there are technologies coming out now that can integrate, for an example, let's take an investor-owned utility. Obviously, they're supplying smart city equipment, smart meter equipment, smart grid equipment. Technologies coming out now that can kind of coalesce all of that into a unified system that will allow them to be able to better add value to their customers, which typically are large industrials and large municipalities. That similar product and that type of technology also exists in industrial settings. So whether it's factory automation or even building automation, the ability to integrate all of those sensors and technology across that space is pretty interesting to me. And basically, this is all fairly nascent, at least from our perspective.
No, that makes sense. And when you consider the IoT space, lots of growth areas there. And Ted, with your experience, you're still very well connected to the recruiting side of things. What do you see right now in the recruiting space and how it might be affected by the pandemic that we're in?
I sold my firm to Brooke Ziolo in 19. So she's been running it since January of 19. In 19, she grew revenues over 18. So she, edged me out. And in 20, she looks like she's going to finish this year better than 2019 in a pandemic. So what that harkens back to is that even during the multiple recessions that I experienced through Egret from 1999 until 2019, is that companies take advantage of recessions to obviously lean out their company, right? So they're by necessity, they're cutting headcount, they're moving people around, but that tends to expose opportunities within that organization for hiring people that have specific talents that they don't have in the building. So they're reaching out to sophisticated recruiters that can help identify those unique talents. And I think that's what we're seeing right now in the recruiting side of the business. Hiring never goes away, even in as bad of a pandemic and recession as we've seen.
Yeah, for sure. There's always a need for good people and good organizations, and change seems to be constant for sure, especially these days. So when you hand off Egret to Brooke and then join Merrimack as a managing director, what caused you to make that transition from the recruiting side to a major focus on M&A?
Oh, I think there's several variables there. I always kind of enjoyed it when I did it as kind of an add-on service when I was doing senior level search. If you think about it, when you do C-level search, the conversations inevitably get to exit strategy, what's the long-term plan, especially in a privately held company. And that leads into what are your options for an exit, right? Are you going to sell it internally or pass it on to an heir? Or are you going to sell it to a strategic company? Or are you just going to turn the lock in the door and walk away? So I really like the intellectual stimulation. M&A involves a significant amount of sophistication in terms of understanding the strategic plan for that company as well as the buyer. So Jeff Ling, who is the co-managing director of Merrimack, has extensive ties in the investment community, and I've got extensive ties in the strategic side of the business. So we kind of divide and conquer in terms of identifying buyers, but ultimately the guys that I'm talking to are the ones that are looking for strategic acquisitions. And I can speak the language of, where are you going relative to product expansion or revenue expansion, market share gain, et cetera.
Makes sense. That seems like a good match based on your experience and what Jeff brings to the table as well. So that's awesome. And when you look at the activity this year and what's been a strange year for business overall, how would you describe M&A activity in 2020 as we approach the year end here?
Oh, I think M&A as a general statement, at least across our industry, is down. But I would tell you that the interest in sellers is up. The interest in buyers is up. The challenge through the pandemic is valuation. So if you're a seller and you've been seriously impacted by COVID, this is probably the best year to sell your company. If you're a buyer, you may be looking for those value buys, and that leads to a kind of an emotional standoff over, are you kidding me? You're going to offer me that for my company that was worth so much more money in 2019. So I think 2019 probably isn't the best year for me to jump in and say, let's go in M&A. But what we've identified is several clients that are ready to go in probably 1st of January. And I think, despite COVID having another large swing to us, I think the interest in M&A is going to pick up. There's definitely a lot of buyers interested in lighting specifically, especially the investment community. And there's definitely, look around, there's 1,500 lighting manufacturers in our database. How many of them are baby boomers that are saying, I don't want to go through another recession? That's kind of where we are right now.
So if we peel back on that a little further, Ted, and look maybe a year or more out, assuming that the pandemic is mostly in our rearview mirror by that point, what do you see kind of medium to long term then on the M&A activity?
I think M&A in the broader electrical industry is very good. In the lighting industry, it's excellent. Lighting has evolved. It's now a form of technology. You could describe it as kind of a Trojan horse to be able to get into the IoT side. I watched Mark Lean's interview with you, and he was talking about the tech companies that have an interest in lighting. We see that as well. So I think anything on the techie side of lighting is going to be very valuable in terms of interest in acquisition. But then you have the core reasons for acquisitions: expansion of your product line, expansion of your markets, expansion of technology. Not the least of which is buying a company that can bring you into a different market, whether that's the UVC market or the grow market or the cannabis market or all the new markets that have emerged since the technology of lighting.
Yeah, these advances in technology are surely making lots of different opportunities for different companies to emerge and possibly be acquired or join up with other partnerships. So Ted, you're a fountain of information and always learn something when I hear you speak at various conferences, and pleased to have this one-on-one with you today that the rest of the lighting industry can also enjoy and learn from. So thank you for joining us today for 5 big questions.
Al, always an honor and an opportunity to talk to you. So congratulations on your success with Inside Lighting. It's a great vehicle.